if you're like me and do it yourself, then you probably used a lot of different tools to get a peek into retirement and your retirement future. You probably use bank statements, Google Finance to get stock prices, and most likely a trusty spreadsheet. A spreadsheet that probably got so unwieldy that it may have confused you and probably had you pulling your hair out. But now, there are great tools for the do-it-yourselfer that gives you tremendous power in your hands. Today, I want to show you a tool that I use now almost every day for my financial future, and a use case that I just had to get into the tool to see if I am missing out or I should just miss it. Hi, I'm Vincent from Vincent Plans Retirement. Welcome to my channel. I'm building my own retirement plan from the ground up and sharing every step of the way with you. I create practical tips and hacks, strategies, and tools to help you craft your own retirement roadmap. So one day you can confidently say, enough is enough. If you want financial freedom, purpose, and do-it-yourself retirement planning without relying on anyone else, you've come to the right place. Climb on board. Welcome to the journey. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Today, I want to show you how I use Boldin Software to model a self-funded pension. Personally, I have traditional retirement accounts like a 401k and Roth, but I don't have a pension. My father has one from his company, grandfathered before they phased it out, but most people I know, I don't think they have a form of guaranteed income source other than their job. So the use case I wanted to show you is how I modeled an indexed universal life policy that my fiduciary advisor recommended to create a self-funded pension. Yeah, I know, Vincent on his IUL warpath again. But hear me out. The reason I'm so onto this product is because I need to either convince myself away that it's a good financial strategy for tax and retirement or not, but it seems the only way to determine the success of this is only at the end of your life when it's too late, or plunge headfirst and hope for the best. Either way, I'm a little bit uneasy about it all, so hence the reason for using Boldin Software. This insurance product, because of the tax treatment it gets, is interesting because it allows you to get a tax-free loan like taking withdrawals from a Roth. It also allows you to pass along your death benefit as a tax-free inheritance to your family, and just like a Roth, you can take a tax-free loan, which reduces your taxable income later in life because you are taking RMDs now to fund it. It's not a tax-free loan necessarily from the Roth, but you can take your monies out tax-free. Boldin doesn't have something like this inherently in its system, so I had to bootstrap something with different functions in the software to replicate the structure, but I think I got what I was looking for. By the way, I just signed up and paid the $250 to review my plan with Boldin, and this scenario is something I'm definitely going to drill into when we meet. I paid for it so you don't have to, and I'll be sharing my information in a future video, so stay tuned. And also, I'm using my own personal instance to give you this demo, so apologies for the masking of certain data, but I don't want to share all this for security reasons. But if you are interested, I'd be happy to walk you through it, I should say. Just DM me on my channel and I'll get back to you. If you are interested in the setup, stay tuned for part 2. Part 2 is more technical, and today I just want to give you my conclusion on the IUL for my retirement journey. So let's get into it. Boldin has a great feature that allows you to isolate scenarios, so you can run sensitivities to different things you're interested in. In my case, it's this product. My baseline is my current life. All my expenses, all my accounts, along with one future expense category that will happen in a few more years is in my baseline. So the nice thing about Boldin is that you can compare two different scenarios. So the left side is my baseline. If you remember, everything should be in your baseline, everything from expenses and all of your accounts, etc. Once you've got that set up, you can feel confident that you've got a good model that's going to set up any additional sensitivities for anything else. So in the right side, it's my IUL. If you look down here in my taxes column, I don't see any benefit to the IUL. In fact, the Roth is winning out, and my effective tax rate didn't do any better after a bunch of Roth conversions. So all I have is a 9.57% effective tax rate. The primary reason you maybe want to have this IUL is the self-funding pension piece that I've been talking about. So let's just focus a little bit on income and expenses, primarily just the income side of the equation. If you see here, my baseline is stating that I'm having to draw $80,000 from pre-tax accounts. Social Security is going to make up some component of that, and then my wife is working. So this is the stated requirements based upon my expenses, which are down here, which essentially is the medical. Obviously you have to pay the income tax. There's some recurring expenses that I have, which is like my travel and all those other things. And then the disbursement, which is really related to some debt that I've kind of incorporated into the model. If I switch it to the IUL, you'll see that there's less strain on pre-tax income. It's going all to the pension. And then I have less requirements for expenses, primarily because that disbursement is no longer there. I don't know. I have to drill down a little bit more into this. It's rather confusing just because I don't know where Boldin sometimes gets these figures from. But what it's stating here is that the pension is taking on more of the strain on my portfolio. Now, the IUL exhibits three properties inherently in its features. One, it replaces Roth conversions to fund the IUL rather than a Roth. Two, during the years you start drawing down on your tax-free accounts like a Roth, you can draw a fixed amount at your discretion from the IUL in the form of a loan that you pay back. I am told you pay it back when you pass away. This loan is paid out of your policy but doesn't hit your principal amount, the amount that you invested. You do pay fees and expenses along the way. And by the way, I couldn't really back into how they calculated it, but anyways, it's in the schedule and it'll probably be in your fee documents. The final thing is whatever is left on your death benefit at the time of death, or maybe when you decide to stop doing the loan, goes to your beneficiaries tax-free. By the way, all of these features are in a Roth as well, except the loan part. What I'm seeing is that an IUL benefit is the minimization of market risk by creating that floor and ceiling of returns. So all the cash flows added will amount to over $1 million while leaving you a death benefit. Let's do a little contrast between the IUL and the Roth IRA in terms of performance. So with the IUL, and in the case of this example I was given, I would have about $1.3 million with the combination of the loan and a death benefit, equaling to about 184% return on the original investment. If I quit after 10 years, you would have about $854,000, and that equals to about an 82% return. That's 10 years after you've already funded it. To contrast this, I asked ChatGPT to compare this to the S&P 500, what the returns would be. It says that it's typically conservative 6 to 8%, but historically been 10%. The value then, if I were to do the same in a Roth, not inflation adjusted, would be $1.47 million in that same 10-year exit period. So after I had funded it. So are these two good investments? Hard to say because these are just assumptions. But I would say this. The thing that I didn't like about the IUL was that for 10 years, I'd have to fund it every year with the risk of losing my surrender value. The risk on the Roth IRA side, though, is market losses. But I have tremendous more flexibility. I can put a portfolio in there to guarantee income with bonds or a combination of cash and bonds, and then also juice that up with equities. So, and I have complete liberty to do whatever I want in that instrument. Whereas with the IUL, I'm pretty much locked in to whatever they are guaranteeing me those returns. And also the fact that I have run the risk of if I decide I don't want to do it or something else happens in my life, I don't have flexibility to move it out. As far as the tax consequences and exit when you have a death benefit, the Roth has the same characteristics. I can transfer the cash at the time of my death to my beneficiaries and it's tax-free. So I think this instrument is really about your risk profile and your comfort for how much risk you want to assume at what point in your life. Presumably, if you have an IUL, it's probably better to have done this maybe a little bit sooner in your life, because if you're doing, for example, some Roth conversions where you have a period in your life cycle where your tax rate is low, maybe that's a good time to do the Roth conversions. But to me, this assumes already a low tax rate level. So that's the only way you could fund this. And right now I'm at a low tax rate level because I'm thinking about retiring. So the amount of income that I'm generating isn't as high. So hard to say what the story would be on this. Verdict is out. Personally, I would prefer to just use a Roth. So in conclusion, what I would say is this. I can't say this is good or not. I actually definitely want to review it with Boldin and see if I did this correctly, because the information here is a little strange. Even still, with the comparison of net worth, I'm not so concerned by that, because if you've seen some of my other videos, I think it's more important to die with zero. Why would you want any of this money anyways? Because chances are, if you can't give it away to your beneficiaries, I don't see what the possibility is of any of that of worth. The only value that I would see in the IUL is this long-term death benefit. Now, if the death benefit can fund long-term care, then I would say this is a great idea. That's something for my financial advisor. I've actually set some time with him on my calendar to see whether or not this makes some sense. But take a look for yourself. If you'd like to find out more about it and see what I did, I'd be happy to show you. In my next video, I'm going to actually show how I set it up. And maybe for those of you who actually are more fluent with this product, let me know, product meaning both Boldin and an IUL, let me know what I did wrong. I would like to change it because I want a proper vision of what this thing can do for me. Quite frankly, my takeaway, I don't see much benefit. It's nice to have less probably strain on the pre-tax accounts, but as you can see, I'm not paying any more taxes. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'm going to actually go into the setup of this thing. And please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.